Tonight, Mark Carney prepares to take over as Prime Minister.
That transition will be seamless and it will be quick.
Carney's meetings with the man he'll replace and his own party ready for a race.
Carney puts himself first. Conservatives will put Canada first.
We break down when you could be headed to the polls. The trade war triggers a stock sell-off. As Ontario makes a power play, slapping a surcharge on U.S.-bound electricity.
Until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent.
But what impact will it have? And cross-border slowdown.
We're boycotting them for sure.
New numbers show just how many Canadians are putting the brakes on U.S. travel.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. The transition of power is well underway in Ottawa tonight, a day after Mark Carney's resounding win as Liberal leader. The Prime Minister-designate is about to take the helm at a tumultuous time for Canada. So Carney, busy on Parliament Hill today, talking with Justin Trudeau about critical issues the country faces, the U.S. trade battle and national security. Mark Carney is now assembling his team, preparing to govern and within weeks to campaign. As Ashley Burke shows us, the Liberals say they're ready.
Mr. Carney, when will there be an election?
Fresh off the heels of his landslide victory, Mark Carney on Parliament Hill to discuss what comes next.
The transition between the Prime Minister and myself, that transition will be seamless and it will be quick.
On day one as Liberal leader, Carney meeting with the Prime Minister, then rallying his caucus with a speech.
We're united to serve Canadians, and we will build this country.
The party is rejuvenated, re-energized.
The first MP who publicly called on Justin Trudeau to resign says he's among those Carney's now convinced to run again in the next election.
He said, look, you could be a part of my team. I would like you to reconsider.
Mark Carney!
Carney gearing up to send Canadians to the polls, trying to build on the momentum he saw Sunday night.
We have to win this election, the big election, and we will stand shoulder to shoulder together to do it.
He won the leadership with 86% of the vote. Trudeau's former principal secretary helped Carney's campaign team.
I think the country could use an election, frankly. I think the country could use a government with a strong mandate to negotiate with Donald Trump.
Carney, who's never held public office before, is facing an uphill battle. Canada's in a trade war, and the Conservatives are leading in the polls and attacking him.
The Conservatives are resorting to the kind of dirty personal politics that Mr. Poilievre has been known for.
Poilievre has immense talent to destroy people's reputations. And he's on full bore right now.
The Conservatives have been calling on Carney to disclose his personal financial holdings to the Ethics Commissioner, which isn't required of contenders. And tonight, some news. Carney's spokesperson says he's now divested all of his assets other than his personal real estate into a blind trust. That's 4 months ahead of the official deadline to do so.
Ashley, can we keep talking about timing here, including starting, I suppose, with when he will take office?
Yeah, Adrian, former cabinet minister Marco Mendicino has been tapped as Carney's chief of staff through this transition, and Carney is expected to become prime minister and swear in his cabinet sometime this week. Then sources say Carney's aiming to trigger an election before Parliament was set to return at the end of the month, with a vote at the end of April or early May.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa tonight. Thank you. CBC's chief political correspondent Rosie Barton joins us now. Rosie, Mark Carney is taking power at, obviously a crucial time for this country.
For sure, Adrian. He steps into this with an enormous challenge in front of him. Already this week, as you know, Donald Trump has said he's pushing ahead with those tariffs on steel and aluminum. We've got that April 2nd date coming with retaliatory tariffs. So Carney spent most of his day with the current prime minister, who gave him some thoughts on how to deal with Donald Trump. But until Carney's sworn in officially as prime minister, he's a bit limited in what he can do. We know he wants to meet with the premiers quickly, and he wants to get on the phone directly with Donald Trump as well. So one thing to watch is also who stays stays in cabinet roles that they currently have because of their strong relationships with Americans. We could expect ministers like Mélanie Joly and Dominic LeBlanc to stay put. This kind of transition, just so people know, normally happens over a much longer period of time. And when the stakes are this high for the country, it's going to be really important to get this right.
Just want to pick up on something. You talked about cabinet there, and as Ashley said, we'll expect that likely by the end of the week. What else? What else are we waiting for?
So it's going to be a cabinet that's really responding to this moment, to Donald Trump, sort of like a wartime cabinet. It has to be people who will be able to be doing an election campaign and still do their jobs as ministers. We had heard also that it might include people who are not elected, which is unusual, but is allowed, something other prime ministers have done. For example, one of those people is former Quebec Premier Jean Charest, who's been helping Prime Minister Trudeau on the Canada-US Council. I know you spoke with him recently. Sources tell us Charest was approached by the Carney camp to play some sort of role. We don't know what was offered to him specifically, but we do know that Charest declined. But that gives you, I think, a bit of a sense of the kind of people the Carney camp is turning to.
Okay, interesting. Rosie, thank you.
Thanks.
Very clearly, Pierre Poilievre and his team are eager for a federal election. But with the trade war shifting polls and now a new Liberal leader, the Conservative leader faces a challenge. Kate McKenna shows us how the party is responding.
For Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, it's a whole new fight.
Carney puts himself first. Conservatives will put Canada first.
His party has itched for an election for months.
We are going to have a carbon tax election.
But the conditions have changed. The Liberal government says it could kill the consumer carbon tax before the next election.
We're looking into how that could be done and how rapidly it can be done.
The country's focus has shifted to tariffs from the U.S.
I think Donald Trump creates a huge problem for Pierre Poilievre, and it's in the simple fact that 1 in 3 of his own supporters like Donald Trump, and 2/3 don't.
The pollster says Trump's threats helped shrink the gap between Liberals and Conservatives.
At the end of the year, the Liberals were barely hitting 20% in the horse race. Today, in some polls, they're ahead. Our poll, they're not far behind. They're up almost 10 points in 2 months. That is unprecedented.
In response, Poilievre is positioning himself as the best option to protect Canadian jobs.
Trump seizes on weakness, and nobody's weaker than Mark Carney.
Conservatives are also trying to tie Mark Carney to Justin Trudeau's record.
There should be no surprise that his viewpoint about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party is that the Liberals are essentially going not for a first term under Mr. Carney, but a fourth term.
But Poilievre's message was not shared by the progressive Conservative Premier of Ontario, speaking on Bloomberg TV.
Carney, extremely bright individual when it comes to finances and other areas of business. He's right in line with what I believe in.
All opposition parties say they're ready for a campaign. The Conservatives have already nominated more than 2/3 of their candidates, and their war room is already opened. An election is expected within weeks, and as Donald Trump has shown, that's a long time in politics. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
So as Mark Carney gathers his team for a trade war and an election, what are poll analysts seeing when it comes to Carney versus Poilievre? We'll break down the numbers in about 20 minutes. Well, Ontario is hitting back in that trade war with a 25% surcharge on the electric power it sells to the states. The Premier warning if the U.S. president doesn't back down, he'll go even further. Thomas Daig now shows us how that's landing.
Opening a new front in the cross-border trade war, Ontario's premier is making good on his threats.
This will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans.
With Ontario selling hydro and nuclear power to U.S. neighbors, the province is slapping a new 25% surcharge on all those exports. The move meant as retaliation for Donald Trump's persistent threats.
Until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent.
The province exports power to nearby Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. Ontario says the surcharge will affect 1.5 million Americans and generate up to an extra $400,000 a day in income.
We're taxing our own exports to make them more expensive. Normally it's the reverse. And this could lead to a reaction, but I think it probably was the right move.
All 3 states have Democratic governors.
Hi, Larry. Good to see you.
Like Minnesota's Tim Walz, who says the first victims of Trump's trade war will be Minnesotans struggling to pay their skyrocketing electric bill. New York's governor wants a Trump tariff cost indicator when customers pay up. But at this time of year, says this expert,
it's not likely to have a dramatic effect on prices.
Ford is urging other provinces like oil-rich Alberta to consider their own tariffs on exports. All of it just days after he swept to another majority government, promising above all to face down Trump.
We can go up from 25% up and down according to our national interest and to send a message that we're going to stand up for ourselves as Canadians.
Experts warn the move could backfire if the trade war drags on and states find cheaper power elsewhere. Ontario's premier insists he's willing to go as far as to cut off U.S. energy exports altogether. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
A dismal day for stock markets is fueling more skepticism of Donald Trump's tariff strategy. Despite his talk of a golden age for business, there's a growing fear of a recession. Katie Simpson shows us why there is also a glimmer of hope for Canada.
The U.S. president and his shifting economic policies stoking fears among investors. Markets suffering the deepest losses of the year so far. Both the Dow Jones and S&P 500 indexes falling 2%. The Nasdaq having its worst day since 2022, down 4%. The TSX losing almost 400 points. The major sell-off triggered at least in part by Donald Trump, who did not rule out a possible recession during an interview on Fox News.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition.
His on-again, off-again tariff policy continues to create uncertainty for businesses, despite his insistence it will grow the economy.
All I know is this. We're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs.
Trump's critics argue this pain was avoidable.
This is pretty much a self-inflicted wound. This is the consequence of policy choices that, to my knowledge, no economist anywhere was recommending.
Steel and aluminum are the next industries to be targeted. The Trump administration is expected to impose 25% tariffs starting Wednesday. Then in April, the White House says it will hit all U.S. trading partners who impose tariffs on U.S. goods or have policies the president feels are unfair to Americans.
A lot of people are blaming tariffs.
Amid the uncertainty, new suggestions, Canada may be able to reach a deal with the U.S. to spare the energy sector.
Is it possible then there are no tariffs?
That's probably possible. I think we could get to no tariffs or very low tariffs, but it's got to be reciprocal.
The White House, in a statement, says it's seeing a strong divergence between the, quote, animal spirits of the stock market and what's unfolding in the business world, saying that's what's meaningful in the medium to long term. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
British Columbia's government liquor stores are now removing all U.S. products from their shelves.
I have received many emails and letters and interactions with people who they don't even want to see American products right now.
6 days ago, BC's first move was to stop selling products made in Republican states. In a bit of a jab, the Premier mentioned that since Trump seems to covet Canada's fresh water, he can, quote, keep his watery beer. Well, Canadians appear to be turning their backs on travel to the U.S. New data shows return trips to the States by car are down by almost a quarter. And as Sophia Harris reports, air travel is slowing down too.
It's an uncommon sight at the Canadian-U.S. border. No lineups. But that's the new reality across the country as more Canadians shun travel to the United States.
We're boycotting them for sure.
This week we were planning on going, but we decided to make a different decision.
New data shows Canadian travel to the U.S. by land dropped by a whopping 23% last month. One factor, the low Canadian dollar. But a new poll shows the top reason for not crossing the border, cited by almost half of Canadians surveyed, the political climate under U.S. President Trump.
It's created emotional reason for Canadians not to go. We see evidence everywhere. People are flying flags more. They are telling us they're going to buy, Canadian products.
That sentiment is echoed in this BC border town. Colin Bykowski has paused his regular shopping trips to the U.S.
With what's going on, we're being a little bit more conscious with our buying decisions. Obviously, we know why, because of the current situation with the U.S.
This couple used to cross to the U.S. to fill up on gas. Now that, too, is on hold.
We have to stand up for Canada. You know, they're poking us in the eye, so we got to poke them back.
The latest data shows the number of Canadians flying to the U.S. dropped by only a small amount last month. But air travel is often planned well in advance and costly to cancel. So some travel agents say March should show a much bigger decline.
So are Canadians booking flights to the U.S. right now?
Majority of our travel that we're seeing now, our requests coming in, are clients that have explicitly said they do not want to go to the United States and are choosing to fly to other places like Mexico, Europe, and even as far as Southeast Asia.
Industry experts say if the trade war with the U.S. continues, even fewer Canadians may spend money across the border, a possible bargaining chip for Canada in trying to shut down Trump's tariffs. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
There was a major rescue operation off the coast of England today after a cargo ship rammed into a tanker carrying jet fuel for the U.S. military. The collision set both vessels ablaze and sent fuel pouring into the North Sea. It's still not clear what caused the crash, but officials say the American tanker was anchored when the Portuguese ship hit it. All but one of the 37 crew members were brought safely ashore. One person remains missing. Well, the Vatican says the Pope's health is improving and that he is no longer in imminent danger. Pope Francis has been in a Rome hospital for more than 3 weeks. He's been battling a respiratory tract infection and double pneumonia. Now, the Vatican says doctors no longer list his prognosis as guarded, but it says it will be necessary for the 88-year-old to continue treatment in hospital. Well, as royals in the UK marked Commonwealth Day, threats to Canada's sovereignty were on many people's minds.
What I think it does is to make us even more determined to stand with all of our friends.
The subtle signs of support from the monarchy, next. Plus, Canada will have a new prime minister within days, but there are still questions about how and when an election will be called.
They don't want to delay too long. They want to look like they will have a mandate.
We break down all the scenarios. And later, it was not the welcome they were expecting.
Oh, he's charging us, at one point, he said.
The CBC correspondent chased by a seal in Antarctica. We're back in 2. Elon Musk says his social media platform was struck by a massive cyber attack. Tens of thousands of users were unable to access X today when it was hit by a series of outages. The platform was back online by the afternoon. King Charles marked Commonwealth Day today with a pointed message calling for unity in uncertain times. And while he did not single out any one country, as Chris Brown shows us, the royals may have been sending subtle signs of support to Canada.
On a day to celebrate the Commonwealth, King Charles and other top royals came to Westminster Abbey with a message of solidarity. In these uncertain times, he said in a statement, where it's all too easy to believe our differences are problems, the Commonwealth's remarkable collection of nations and peoples come together in the spirit of support. For Canada, support is the key word.
We are a family.
The Secretary General of the organization told us Canada will remain a stalwart, sovereign country despite the bluster of U.S. President Trump.
What I think it does is to make us even more determined to stand with all of our friends.
Of late, the king has taken on the role of a figure of reassurance, meeting with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky after he was berated by Donald Trump, and also seeing Justin Trudeau. British media suggest the friction between Canada and the United States is very much on his mind.
There have been some subtle but notable signs of support from the royals. The king has been out in public wearing his Canadian medals. And Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wore red with a white necklace.
Nothing happens by accident with the royal family. The princess was absolutely resplendent in red today.
Canada's High Commissioner to the UK says allies are lining up behind Canada.
In this world, We all have to fight our own battles in organizations like the Commonwealth and many other multilateral organizations. Canada's reputation is strong.
With 56 countries and vast inequality, the Commonwealth is beset with questions about its usefulness. But boosters say there's room to improve trade links in new markets, which Canada needs. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
On a remote island off Antarctica, Canadian scientists are getting an up-close look at the effects of climate change.
What happens in Antarctica doesn't stay in Antarctica.
Susan Ormiston and what it tells us about climate change in the Canadian Arctic. Plus, as Mark Carney takes the helm of the Liberal Party, Canada is on the verge of a pivotal election. What the polls show about where the race sits today and where it could be going. And taken from their homes nearly a century ago, left behind in an unfamiliar and unforgiving land.
If you don't forgive, you can't go on.
The apology they fought for and the lingering pain. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. A really frightening and dangerous moment for passengers aboard this gondola at a resort in Golden, BC. Shortly after leaving the loading terminal, the cabin crashed to the ground. Officials say there were only minor injuries. The resort shut down for the day and the gondola will remain closed for now. And one of Central America's most active volcanoes has erupted again. Known as the Volcano of Fire, it's just 35 kilometers from Guatemala's capital. Today it began spewing lava, ash, and rocks, forcing around 1,000 people from nearby communities into a temporary shelter. A similar eruption in 2018 killed more than 200 people. Well, CBC News is getting a first-hand look at climate change in action. International climate correspondent Susan Ormiston joined Canadian research scientists for an unprecedented mission to Antarctica, and she shows us what happens in this remote place impacts the whole world.
Marking their territory near the relics of a former whaling station. Abandoned, like the Chilean and British bases, which were here on Deception Island, before volcanic eruptions in the late 1960s chased them away, leaving Whalers Bay to its natural inhabitants, mostly.
What happens in Antarctica doesn't stay in Antarctica.
Tom James is the chief scientist of an all-Canadian expedition to Antarctica. He's studying sea level rise.
The Antarctic ice sheet contains enormous amounts of fresh water, and as the ice sheet thins and melts in places, calves at faster rates, that's going to affect global sea level change.
Antarctica's glaciers are receding and sea ice reached near record lows last month. Both contribute to rising global sea levels at an increasing rate.
The planet is changing extremely quickly, and so what we see in the Canadian Arctic is also mirrored in Antarctica. And by engaging in Antarctica, we not only learn about the other pole, as it were, but we also engage with the very large number of nations that are doing Antarctic research.
This is where they used to process all the whale blubber, one of a very few examples of a commercial settlement here on the continent. Under the Antarctic Treaty, it wouldn't be allowed today. But the island is still changing, with luxury ships bringing thousands of tourists. James is collecting samples for a fellow scientist who wants to measure how ship traffic may be impacting such a remote place.
What we're doing is adding to that body of knowledge of how are contaminants dispersing globally, how are glaciers retreating, and how is that retreat of glaciers and overall climate warming changing the environment.
100 years ago, whalers perished on this frozen island. Now data from here will help forecast our climates next century. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Deception Island, Antarctica.
A little later in the show, a moment of levity from that Antarctic expedition will show you Susan's encounter with a rather unfriendly seal. Now, though, it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Inuit families relocated hundreds of kilometers from their homes, never to return.
the biggest thing for them to hear of, yes, we did wrong.
Almost a century later, we're there for the government's apology. But first.
In first place, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
After a decisive win in the Liberal leadership race, what does Mark Carney do now?
It's plausible that Mr. Carney might decide, I don't want to become Prime Minister yet. I'll be leader of the Liberal Party, but I'm going to wait and go directly to an election.
Lauren Bird breaks down the options and how Carney might go about getting his party a mandate from Canadians.
The next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
Canada will soon have a new Prime Minister. Now the question everyone is wondering, when's the election? Option 1 is the unlikeliest, but it's still constitutionally possible. Justin Trudeau calls the election. Justin Trudeau, who's still technically PM, could ask the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. That would take place before Carney is even sworn in.
It's plausible that Mr. Carney might decide, I don't want to become Prime Minister yet. I'll be leader of the Liberal Party, but I'm going to wait and go directly to an election.
Because remember, he doesn't hold a seat in Parliament. This might be a way to avoid getting criticized for that and still go into the election as a Liberal leader.
It's a long shot. It's strange, but constitutionally it is plausible at least.
The second option, most likely according to some analysts, Carney calls the election once he becomes Prime Minister. Carney may want to do this as soon as possible, certainly before Parliament is scheduled to resume. Right now, it's prorogued until March 24th.
They don't want to delay too long. They want to look like they will have a mandate given to them by the people to negotiate with President Trump.
The other reason Carney may want to call it is to capitalize on some upward movement the Liberal Party has seen in the polls.
The polls are suggesting, although this trend is not confirmed yet, that the Liberals might have peaked in terms of their support for what they're going to get from that race.
And if Carney decides to wait, there will be an expectation that Parliament should be called back early, say analysts.
And if they didn't bring Parliament back, people are going to wonder why. What's the government doing? Why is it afraid of Parliament being recalled?
Option 3 would see Carney stay on as Prime Minister and take his chances at surviving a potential no-confidence vote. The Conservatives have promised to move a motion of no confidence as soon as the House resumes, and the NDP have said they'd also support toppling the government.
Do you think there's going to be pressure on the leader to call an election as soon as possible?
Well, there'll be pressure from a lot of sides. I mean, the Conservatives have been quite consistent at calling for an election, and generally the other opposition parties have been as well.
And if Parliament does resume, things might get a little awkward for Carney, because without that seat, he can't even speak for the party in the House of Commons.
If Parliament met, Mr. Carney would have to watch from the galleries.
Now, by law, the campaign period must be between 37 and 51 days, so about 5 to 7 weeks long. And if, like analysts say, option 2 is the most likely, then we could be at the polls by mid-April.
Eric Grenier is the man behind the CBC News poll tracker. Philippe Fournier, also a poll analyst. You're no stranger to each other. You both co-host a podcast called The Numbers. So let's talk numbers. Philippe, it's real now. Mark Carney is the new Liberal leader. What do the polls say about a Carney versus Poilievre election?
Well, we saw some diverging numbers in the past weeks. But the latest Léger polls showed that Mr. Carney still enjoys a 3-point bump when we insert his name into the questionnaire. However, we should stress that these hypothetical polls do not automatically translate to reality. So it will be very interesting to see this week the new polls with Mr. Carney as leader of the Liberal Party to see whether this new reality is settling in among voters.
Eric, we're going to bring up the CBC News poll tracker for the viewers here. So you see that really big change in support. Can we be specific about where the Liberal support has come from in the last few months? Are we talking men, women, NDP, Conservative, which places in the country?
I do think it is all of the above. As you can see there, we have seen a big drop in support for the New Democrats, but we've also seen a drop in support for the Conservatives. So Mark Carney has been able to, I think, pull a little bit of support from both left and right. But we should also remind viewers that those numbers you're looking at, those are polls that mention Justin Trudeau, or they're polls that did not mention who the leader was. I think a lot of Canadians were probably putting Mark Carney there in their minds. But he has really been able to draw from both the Conservatives and from the NDP. And we've seen a big jump in support for the Liberals in Atlantic Canada, where they now lead, in Quebec, where they also lead. They've closed the gap in Ontario, in BC, even a small uptick in Alberta and the Prairies. So it really has been pretty broad-based. And I think that's what makes it all the more concerning for the Conservatives, that they've lost that huge lead and that they've lost a lot of ground throughout the country.
And again, those were numbers that appeared before it was clear that Carney would be the winner here.
Yeah, and I think that we'll see over the next few days, once, as Philippe said, once some polls come out with Mark Carney, every poll that had been done over the last few weeks, kind of putting in his name in place of Justin Trudeau, saw a bump for the Liberals. So we are expecting that the next set of polls that we'll see will probably also have that bump.
Philippe, what's your sense of how strong that support is? In polling, I guess people sometimes refer to it as soft, the support?
Oh, there's no doubt. The same way that the Conservatives polling above 45%, like we have seen before Christmas, that was part of it was soft support. And so the Conservatives going from the mid to high 40s to the low 40s and even the high 30s in the latest polls we had from Leger, from the Angus Street Institute. This support was basically a bunch of voters who did not want Justin Trudeau to be Prime Minister past this year and were looking for an alternative. And now there is a new alternative. And so we will see in the very short term where these voters decide to park their vote.
Is there a story, Philippe or Eric, in terms of men and women? Are you seeing any distinctions there?
Well, Eric, you want to take this?
Well, we have seen that the Liberals were trailing among men by a huge margin, and they were much more competitive with the Conservatives among women. As we've seen that the Liberal numbers have gone up, they have made up grounds among both men and women. I think that we're still looking at that gender split where men are much more likely to vote for the Conservatives than women. But again, the increase in support has been pretty uniform, and I think it does suggest that the Liberals are regaining some of their traditional base, particularly among women and older voters as well. And as we know, those are voters who tend to go out to the polls in bigger numbers.
Eric, go ahead, Philippe.
No, I was just going to add, because also among women, we have seen in the past years the NDP polling higher, and those numbers have gone down significantly since Mr. Trudeau announced his resignation in early January. So that vote among women seems to be shifting towards the Liberals.
Mark Carney is now in the driver's seat, I suppose, when it comes to calling an election. Eric, what should he be considering from the polls as he makes this decision?
Well, I think there's a number of things. One is that he's still relatively unknown. We don't see huge recognition numbers when it comes to Mark Carney. He is getting better known, but there are still a lot more Canadians who don't really have that firm of an opinion of him. So the fact that we have seen good numbers for Carney over the last little while, when he has this low recognition, suggests to me that a lot of it is based on reputation, on his experience. And so there is a risk. The longer a campaign is, the more that Canadians could decide that their first impression of Mark Carney they don't like very much. They could end up liking it, but there is a risk there. And I think that if Mark Carney kicks off the next election saying that he needs a mandate to take on Donald Trump as soon as possible, that suggests going sooner rather than later and having a shorter campaign rather than a longer one.
So there's support, and then in our system, there are seats, right, which ultimately really matter. And I'm curious what that picture looks like. You both have your own seat projection models. What's your sense of how many seats do you have them each able to win and why? So, Philip, why don't we look at yours first? We'll bring it up for the viewers here, and then take us through what we're seeing.
Well, the uptick, as Eric said, the uptick in Liberal support has been generalized throughout the country, but it's not as efficient everywhere. I think one of the most dramatic changes in the seat count is in Quebec, where the Bloc Québécois was projected to be the official opposition in Ottawa before Christmas, and now we don't see that. We see the Bloc has gone down to the high 20s, and so this surge of support in Quebec is boosting the Liberal numbers. So right now I have the Conservatives in minority territory at 150 seats on average. Of course, this is an average. The Liberals not far behind at 143, and you can see the Bloc Québécois and the New Democrats, 28 and 14 seats respectively, have gone down significantly in recent weeks.
Interesting. Eric, your graphic looks a little different, right? Let's bring that up. Why does it look different?
Well, it looks a little bit different because we put in a lot of the same numbers, and we play with them a little bit differently. I think overall what we're both seeing, though, you can see that the NDP in both of our graphics are at 14, which shows how much trouble they're in. But I think the difference is that it depends on whether we give the Conservatives a 9-point lead, which is what we have in the poll tracker, or a bit of a smaller lead, which is what Philippe has in his, based on whether we've seen a lot of new polls out in the last little while. But it just shows that both of us are showing that the Conservatives have fallen out of majority territory, a place that they were in for almost most of the last year and a half. We had them both winning 230 seats just a few months ago. So the fact that we both see the same thing happening, where it is a Conservative minority and a Liberal being close enough that this is actually just a few points away from being a toss-up in terms of who would win the most seats. Philippe and I, in our podcast, we made some bets at the end of the year, how many seats that we thought the Conservatives would win this year. We're both going to be really, really wrong because things have shifted so much in the last few weeks.
May we all live in interesting times. Eric and Philippe, the first of many conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Coming up, nearly 100 years ago, some Inuit families were taken from their homes, never to be returned.
We are sorry. Mamianak. The relocation should not have occurred.
A long-awaited apology and the emotions that still run deep. That's next. Almost a century after the forced relocation of Inuit families in the Arctic, contrition and an apology from the federal government.
We are sorry.
If you don't forgive, you can't go on.
Another step in the journey towards reconciliation. Juanita Taylor was in Arctic Bay for a moment people there say was long overdue.
Arctic Bay in Nunavut is the third most northern community in Canada, and it's where Isaac Suyuk lives.
Hi, Suyuk.
He's getting ready for a historic day to hear the Canadian government apologize for relocating his family and others from Kingate to Dundas Harbour on Devon Island. These jackets are a symbol of his 15-year fight to hear those words.
Wow. Piuyualuin.
He wore this one when he met with federal officials when negotiations began. If he accepts the apology, he'll wear white for joy and happiness.
Suyuk was born in 1939, just 10 miles east from here. His family is among the first Inuit in Canada to be relocated to the high Arctic for Canada's sovereignty. More than 90 years later, their descendants are still feeling the loss and pain from the relocations.
In 1934, over 50 Inuit from Baffin Island were selected by the Hudson's Bay Company to move more than 1,000 kilometers to Dundas Harbour, where it had set up a new trading post. The federal government approved the plan. They sailed on the Nisqually to uninhabited Devon Island. The families were dropped off to hunt, trap, and trade and be a Canadian presence in the far north, with a promise from the government to return home after 2 years.
Tanna suna wasaglulut utik tawrak to saglut tamarin ng matatana wano pemariunak pa mga tawrak sa maniwining.
When the ship returned, instead of going back to Kingate, the families were dropped off in Arctic Bay against their wishes. Suyuk says his grandmother was devastated.
Kanya ninyo ko ay daw ninyo ko kami ananangan. Ang ikasong ni kumutat sa mga sikaw mo ikigaktuwi niyo guro ang utingin na may katak sa akin may ako nagawin manilak to ang ikasong ni kumutat na sa mga nagligin ng pakayak katay ko.
Several families were moved yet again to Hudson's Bay posts in Fort Ross and Spence Bay.
1937?
Laisha Kavavauk's family was also relocated. Laisha's daughter, Lucy Kavavauk, is helping to get the acknowledgement.
Lucy, how are you feeling about the apology?
It's incredible. The biggest thing for them to hear of, yes, we did wrong.
For the past 15 years, the Dundas Harbour Relocation Society has been working to get compensation and an apology. It all started with this letter, written by Suyok himself to federal officials. Sarah Phillip is with the society. She is also a descendant.
As Inuit always say that they adapt very quickly and they forgive easily. That's how they survived. Otherwise, if you don't forgive, you can't go on.
And on February 27th, the day they have been long waiting for, Suyok and his community finally heard those words.
We are sorry. We are sorry. Mami Anak. The Government of Canada took advantage of its dominant position over Inuit living in the Arctic and moved them to further its geopolitical goals without due regard to the desires of the relocatees or impact that the move would have on them. The relocation should not have occurred without the informed consent of those to be moved.
Where a moment of silence was held for these descendants and for the more than 200 other descendants that have since been found. Bringing celebrations for Inuit who have been waiting for this day to come.
You may be wondering if the apology Juanita just showed us included any compensation. She confirms that the federal government has allocated $4.5 million to the Dundas Harbour Relocation Society. It will be distributed to the more than 200 descendants of the families impacted. Coming up, a seal chases correspondent Susan Ormiston.
Unbeknownst to us, he does start charging us, like running towards us.
Pursued at the very bottom of the world, her nimble escape is next in our moment. Look carefully with me. You see the figure in the white coat? Well, that is Susan Ormiston on assignment in Antarctica, and right behind her, apparently chasing her, that is an aggressive seal. So we just couldn't resist showing you this outtake from her climate change story because a drone caught the whole thing on video. So tonight, the seal versus Susan makes our moment.
Oh, he's charging us at one point, he said. When we got to Deception Island, I truly had to pinch myself. I was at the bottom of the world in a bay that's actually an active volcano. It just had this sense of mystery about it. So there we were walking along. The seals were lined up like soldiers on the beach, just protecting their territory. There were a lot of seals.
Quiet down.
And Tom James, the chief scientist, told me that sometimes these seals can get quite aggressive. Unbeknownst to us, behind us, there was this seal, and he does start charging us, like running towards us. And I don't know if you've ever seen a seal in the wild, but with their flippers, they're not exactly elegant or efficient as sprinters. However, he was coming along pretty fast, probably looked slightly ridiculous. I think I was kind of laughing, actually. You know, we were startled. We were startled and ran a few steps down to the beach, and he finally gave up the chase. Yeah, we had a laugh.
We can run faster than they can.
I've been chased by humans, but never a seal.
So I have a note here that Susan swears she did not screaming. No screaming. She was very clear about that. But Susan, Jill, and Sam, the crew down there, are still floating around in those waters. Pretty spotty Wi-Fi. So thank you for thinking of the moment. We appreciate that. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.